Greetings, welcome to the SciFi Pubcast, the podcast that tries to be a pub, and perhaps someday a pub that tries to be a podcast. As always, we are looking for customers to come visit our bar. So if you're passionate about something, you want to be on a podcast, well, please let us know. This bar is all about community. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a 5-star review wherever you find the show, joining our Discord server, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Yes, my name is Joe. I'm the owner of the so-called SciFi Pubcast, so to speak. And today we have our two dedicated staff members. As always, we have Carrie Simpson and Derek Beebe. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hey, happy weekend recording. How are you guys doing? What's new and exciting?
Happy October.
All right, the best month because of Halloween. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And Canadian Thanksgiving. No, not really. Halloween. Okay. So, Carrie, how is life?
Canadian Thanksgiving can be pretty cool, I guess. I've never tried it.
Yeah, it's exactly like American Thanksgiving, but with less football.
Is it less commercialized than the American Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Okay.
And no.
Okay.
Yes and no.
I'm doing good. It's finally starting to cool down over here in California. The state's still on fire, but that's like normal now, unfortunately. But it's getting colder.
Oh, good.
So yeah.
It hasn't snowed yet up in London, Ontario. It's raining today, so there's that. The leaves are falling off the trees, but hey, it's fall. It's my favorite season, so that's great. And in Pennsylvania, Derek, how you doing, man?
Pretty good. I don't think I've had one interesting thing happen to me in 2 weeks, though.
Really? Is that just because?
Oh wait,
of you?
well, I guess did Foundation premiere in the time since we've recorded? So that was notable.
Yes,
I think so.
I quite enjoy Foundation on Apple TV. There's been 3 episodes that's been released to date, and I'm all about Foundation. So hopefully we'll do that as a topic sometime down the road. I think the sake of history is on our side, right? So
maybe.
I'm slowly
I guess
reading
that's
my way through the series. I'm slowly reading my way through the series, and I'm almost done with the second of the original Foundation books now.
That's most excellent.
Whether or not I continue watching the series is going to depend largely on how the IATSE vote goes this week, and it's looking like there's going to be a strike. So I may fall a few weeks behind, depending on what on the strike vote.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. You were a bit choppy there, but I understand things are happening in your real life. But hopefully you can get to catch up.
Well, no. All the tech unions are voting to go on strike next week.
Oh, really? Okay, that's
over working conditions. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So
I thought you said the Nazi strike.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. That would be difficult.
IASTE. Otherwise, the blanket organization that covers all of the tech unions in show business. They are protesting the grueling work hours that production companies are forcing them to work, and the production and producers union is not being cooperative. So, the strike is probably happening next week.
Okay, I did not hear anything about that.
Without tech, without tech crews, everyone would be naked, screaming in the dark, and probably screaming Shakespeare because they don't have to write anything new.
Yeah. It doesn't lay a good foundation for further existence, does it?
No, it really doesn't.
And speaking of strikes, and let me just say, hopefully you guys aren't going on strike on me, please. I can handle a strike right now. I'll settle to any of your conditions you want to impose on me, because I'm dealing from a position of weakness, of course. But Derek, how's our kitchen doing?
Yeah, you told me we couldn't unionize. That was part of that contract of employment that I signed.
Yeah, of course. That's the contract thing. I gave you a copy of that, right?
So, as for the kitchen, in honor of our what if topic, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Dr. Seuss book, What If Wishes Were Fishes? So, I posit to you today, what if dishes were fishes? So, what I did was, I got a bunch of frozen fish. I froze them. Well, they were already frozen, but I kept them frozen, because if you let them sit out in the sun for a long time and then freeze them, I've learned from experience it's not always great. So I have these constantly frozen fish, and what I did was I kind of like glued two of them together to kind of make like a dinner plate. So rather than putting the food on the plates, I'm putting them on these glued together frozen fishes. And if you think about it, it's actually healthy because they say that, you're supposed to eat like fish and fish oils and omega-3 and all that stuff is good for you. So the food, the fish is going to seep into the food. And so like every meal that you eat here is going to be infused with omega-3 ingredients. So that rancid fishy smell is actually really healthy for you. Speaking of rancid, Joel, we're going to have to keep the doors open and have this big ventilation fan blowing because once they start to de-thaw, there does start to be a bit of a smell that we need to, waft out of here.
All right.
Wait, hold on a second. So Derek is too cheap to buy plates, but he's willing to let us fans and use up all that electricity to alleviate the cheese smell, this abomination he's cooked up for us.
Well, I mean, we already have the plates. It's not about saving money. It's about, healthiness and, getting those vitamins into people.
All right.
Also, I don't have to clean the fishes afterwards. I've just been throwing them out front in front of the store, which, again, is why we need that fan going.
Jesus Christ. This is the reason why I'm drinking Caesars right now, okay? Okay. Oh, God. Right, so, my update. Let's see. I'm doing my PhD at law at the University of Western Ontario, otherwise known as Western University. I'm really busy. I'm going a bit nuts. I'm also attending bar 3 times a week, which is really cool, but it takes a lot of my time away. So hopefully there's no delays on getting this show out, but if there are, it's on me. I take full responsibility. It's just a living life large, and podcast is great. I love podcasting, but sometimes life interferes. Life will find a way, though. But let's see. Welcome. We're doing our part 2 episode on What If of science fiction. So we did our last episode on What If, where we focused mostly on Star Wars and Star Trek, but we couldn't stop there, so we're doing a part 2. And when we say what if, what we mean by that is that some pivotal event that did not happen or happened differently in a storyline, and what were the consequences of these difference of events and how it plays out. So Disney Plus is doing a TV show called What If. It's most excellent. It deals with, of course, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Derek had a great idea to pose the question, what about what ifs in other franchises? Okay, and by the way, Derek, still a good idea, man. I like that.
Thank you.
And to give credit to where credit is due, this week's show notes are done mostly by Derek because I'm running around with my head cut off with real life issues. So Derek has stepped up to the plate, and I can't wait to hear the discussion. So, yes. I think we begin, because you had something, Derek, about YouTube animated parodies. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure people are aware. There's this really funny channel. It's called How It Should Have Ended, and they do these little flash animations of popular movies and TV shows, and they basically run through like 10 different scenarios of what should have happened in the movie. So it basically is one big what if, but it's done as a joke. So, like whenever the big, Marvel movie comes out or something, they'll do that. And it's basically showing like how the hero should have failed or how the villain should have failed and gotten killed and that sort of thing. They're really cute. And they've been doing this for like 8 years. So there's hundreds of these things. So you can look them up and there's lots and lots of content to enjoy.
Right. And how long are these videos?
They're like 3-5 minutes each.
That'd be good. Yeah. Even for someone with your attention, rate. Okay. All right, my friend. Derek, what do you want to talk about first? You want to continue on the Star Trek stuff? Or
last time we stopped in the middle of Star Trek, so we have more we could go through here. One that actually kind of came to pass. What if Next Generation did an 8th season? There's actually a parody book written by Mike McCahan, who is the creator of Lower Decks, the cartoon. Mike Mahan, sure. He wrote a book called...
There's another M in there, Derek. It's Mike McMahon.
Okay. He wrote a book called Warped, and it's basically a fictional episode guide to a season 8 of Next Generation that was never made, that they made intentionally terrible because they were contractually obligated to make it, and they just wanted to get out of it and make the crappiest, quickest thing they could do. I bought it and read it, and it is hilarious. You can definitely tell it's from the guy who did Lower Decks. I highly recommend buying that on Amazon. Warped by Mike, whatever you said.
McMahon. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, check that out. I'll put that on the list. There's a whole whack of things on my list already, but that goes on the list eventually. And what else? Let's see.
So if we're looking at DS9, I could ask, what if Worf did not join DS9 in Season 4? Because that actually wasn't supposed to happen. They never intended for Worf to join the crew. That was kind of imposed upon them by management because they wanted to beef up the ratings now that Next Generation was off the air. So their original intention for Season 4 was basically what became Season 5. There was never going to be Klingons or a Klingon war or any of that stuff. That was all just added because Michael Dorn was added to the cast. So Season 4 was actually supposed to be, like Cardassia joining the Dominion and the Dominion invading and all that sort of thing. So if Worf hadn't joined, the show would have turned out very different.
Interesting. Carrie, do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, I definitely they were getting at because they're gearing up to this big Dominion war, and then suddenly in Season 4 decided to take a bit of a detour and deal with all this Klingon stuff. Now, I love the Klingon stuff. I love the Klingon arc that they managed in Space Nine. I can see where that kind of went off the rails a bit. It's like it is a bit of a diversion from what the original storyline was, or what the storyline was supposed to be, I guess.
I have to ask myself, what if...
Not that I'm anti-Worf at all. I love the addition of Worf to the cast.
Oh yeah, he was a great addition.
Even if sometimes he was an overbearing stick in the...
I gotta ask, what if Skype works properly? Because our sound quality is a bit atrocious right now, and there's nothing we can do about it. So we're just gonna push on through because that's life.
Sorry, guys.
And I'm drinking. It's not you, Derek. Actually, it was a bit choppy as well, and that's how my feed is like with you guys. But
I can hear Joel fine, but Carrie is very jumpy.
So you think
Joel keeps breaking up on my end. So.
There you go. Yes, this is...
It's like Rashomon. We all have a different version of events.
I'm definitely going to be making another Caesar. Okay. I'm drinking Bloody Caesars because, of course, we're recording on a Sunday afternoon, and this is what you do on the weekend in Canada. Drink Caesars.
Yeah, I do think that Deep Space Nine Season 4 was excellent. I'm not complaining about it. It is interesting to think about how it would have been different. And just think, if no Worf, that means that Jadzia never ended up with Worf. And I also think that adding Worf to the cast is what really made Jadzia a more interesting and fun character. I mean, they definitely gave her things before that, like Blood Oath was in late Season 2. But I think it was the addition of Worf and her pairing with him that really made her such a fun and interesting character. And kind of like got her out of the shell of like, oh, let's do another Trill story about her. It gave her something different to do and made her more of a fun warrior. So I think that the addition of Worf greatly improved Jadzia in the series as well.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen DS9 since it came out, so I'm a bit rusty on that. I'm still trying to revisit that. It's on my to-do list, and I actually have it saved on Netflix. Mm-hmm. There you go. Well, Netflix Canada. But saying that, refresh my memory. The whole Dominion War was started because of what again?
You mean in show or external, or like how, or why did the writers do it?
Well, both. That's a equally valid
question. Technically, the Dominion War was sort of started because they found the wormhole and started exploring the Gamma Quadrant, and people kept warning them, like, no, seriously, this is all Dominion territory. You really need to back off. But the Federation was like, oh, this is new part of space we must explore, right. And ignored all the warnings that, hey, this is not the friendliest bit of galaxy that you and this part of the galaxy is already claimed by an action. So it's like
basically it's all Cisco's fault.
I see. Yeah,
we talked about that last
possibly.
week, actually. If Cisco never discovered the wormhole, there never would have been a Dominion War.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Then we could have concentrated more on the Klingons, Cardassians, and the Romulans.
Yeah. So to go to the part 2 of this question, Derek, so what happened in real life that the writers brought in the Dominion War concept?
This is where my memory gets hazy, but I think they basically wanted to do something different from Next Generation. They wanted to actually have like a proper war and a proper ongoing threat. And I'm pretty sure it was not like passed down from higher up. I think it was the idea of the writers themselves that they wanted to do war stories and that sort of thing. They wanted to change things up. I think it's been so long since I read the books and the interviews, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was their decision and not forced on them the way the Worf decision was.
Interesting.
And I do know that the war was not a popular idea with the higher ups, because in season 6, when they did the 6-episode occupation arc, the writers actually wanted to do like an entire season of that, right. And the studio balked. They said, absolutely not. You cannot have that kind of serialized storytelling because people are only, watching a week here and a week there. You can't have like one big story. So they compromised and only got 6 episodes out of it. So that's actually another what if scenario. What if the Dominion occupation lasted an entire season? I think it would have been amazing because those 6 episodes are so good. To me, that's like the high point of the show, and everything after that is downhill.
And
the 90s and the struggle with whether to make some of these serious or not.
Yeah.
That's never a problem now.
Exactly. I'm still trying to figure out if there's going to do like a season 3 of Mythic Quest, but that's a little tangent I want to go off on later on. Perhaps.
I actually just finished watching season 2, and from what we read, they're not immediately making it, but they're planning to eventually make it. So it's not canceled, but it's not in the immediate plans either. So it's kind of like like Curb Your Enthusiasm, where it's like we'll do a season of it.
Oh, wait, we're times.
He's going to be busy working on Philly again now.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, and then going back to DS9, Terry Farrell. What if Terry Farrell would have stayed in season 7? And first thing, I can't believe she was in Back to School with Ronnie Dangerfield. That's amazing. Just looked it up. Okay. Derek, what's up? Derek?
It was very unfortunate that she got kicked out in the final season because it was the last year and to suddenly have to introduce a new character. I mean, I certainly loved Ezri at the time, but it would have been nice if we could have finished out with Jadzia and given her and Worf a happy ending. Yeah. I mean, obviously we would have had Jadzia and Worf happily married. Maybe they would have finally had a child. Obviously the biggest impact it would have had on the show is that you didn't get Ezri, who kind of dominated the early half of season 7 because we were getting all these stories about her and introducing her, and she had that relationship with Bashir. So the addition of her had a huge impact on the season that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So maybe we would have gotten more screen time for the other characters, maybe more of a look at how the Dominion War was progressing, that sort of thing.
Carrie, your take?
I mean, I loved Zia as a character. I thought I would have been fine seeing her finish out the show. I think it's kind of shitty how she was pushed out, how Terry Farrell was pushed out off of the show. But no, you know, that is they are and were handled back then, because higher ups are can be crap.
Actually,
I love as much as
full disclosure, I yanked my pension money out and I invested in some US based stocks. So I did buy some Viacom CBS stocks. So I'm a part owner of Star Trek. So please send us all your letters. This is how Canadian federal pensions work, Dora.
That would have been a nice thing to know beforehand, Joel.
Oh, there you go. Full transparency here. Also own Disney, so there you go.
So as much as I love Jadzia, I really loved Ezri as well, and I thought she was a brilliant addition to the cast. I thought it was a really good way to expound on some of the Trill culture that we kind of got over the course of the series, but we never actually saw how that would have affected changing of a host would have affected real life situations in the series. So I thought that was kind of cool, and having her be someone who was never planning on being a host, that just made it more interesting.
Interesting. Derek, what's this Dukat? What happened if Dukat didn't join the Dominion? You had this down.
You don't remember who Dukat is?
Dukat, I know who Dukat is. I know who. He's Cardassian with a big giant, face thing, right?
No, he's a motorcycle.
Oh, right, okay. I thought it was like an exchange. Ducati, that's funny. Oh dear, no.
In season 5, Dukat secretly joined the Dominion and negotiated on behalf of Cardassia, getting them to join the Dominion, so that when the Dominion invaded, they had an instant foothold and partner. So rather than just doing an armed invasion through the wormhole, they were just flying ships to their new peaceful partner, Cardassia, allowing them to build up a huge foothold in the Alpha Quadrant, so that when war finally did break out, they had an absolute advantage. Yeah. So if Dukat had not, slipped through the wormhole to do these secret negotiations, and Cardassia had not joined the Dominion, the war would have turned out very differently. It probably would have opened with an immediate battle, and we would have had Bajor and DS9 as the front foothold of this major war, rather than it being kind of like, off in the distance over in Cardassia. So it definitely would have changed the future of the show in a huge degree.
If Dukat would have been the person, and wouldn't have been the person, do you think someone else would step up and do something similar? Like, who were the players at the time?
That's a good question, because history tells us that history is not made by individuals, but by forces.
Go again.
Sorry, Kara, were you talking?
No, I said his daughter Zial might have survived the show if Dukat hadn't, been a slimy, double dealing. Sorry, as much as I love Dukat, I also hate him because very, very, very creepy guy.
Yeah,
and
and we apologize. One of the reasons why we're talking over each other is the delays in Skype. So but shit happens, and this is a bar. So it's quite the Enterprise too. So let's switch gears slightly. So Derek, you head down. What would happen, or what if the Enterprise TV show got a 5th year?
Yeah, we know that Shran the Andorian, played by Jeffrey Combs, was was going to become a regular character in the 5th season. That would have been cool, because he's always fun. And we know that it would have been about the birth of the Federation and the outbreak of the Romulan War. So all that sounded really interesting. I was not a huge fan of Enterprise, especially the first 2 years. I do not care for the first 2 years. But by the time they got in season 4, I was really enjoying what they were doing. They were doing all these little 2-parters and 4-parters, and they were directly setting up things in the series and like directly leading into the original series and the birth of the Federation. So I was really happy with where they were going. And I know there's actually a novel series that kind of does what the 5th season would have done. I haven't read them, but they definitely sound interesting.
Interesting. I like that.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to seeing more of the Romulan War, because I'm all about the Romulans. The Romulans are cool, and we don't get to explore them nearly enough until the last season, kind of the last season of Enterprise, and a bit here and there on Voyager, and we some good exploration of them on Picard, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah.
And I would have loved more Shran. Shran is awesome.
Yeah.
Now,
the only problem,
Derek, in your notes it says Shran joins the crew. I don't think that you saying that Shran would have joined the Enterprise crew.
Yeah,
He
was actually going to be a series regular on the ship with
on
them.
his own ship.
Yeah.
But he's already
know,
captain of his own ship.
Yeah, I think they had some kind of storyline planned where he actually did join the crew as like a representative of the Andorian Alliance, or maybe he got discredited or something. But I did remember reading somewhere he was actually going to be on the ship as a regular member of the crew.
Really interesting. Yeah, let's see. Sorry, I had to make a drink because Skype issues and the stress, the pressures we all are under trying to record a hobby podcast for science fiction fans. So sorry, I'm having another drink.
Sometimes we get performance anxiety.
Sure.
No, speaking of which, I said my phone just rang. But I'll move on. Okay, so anything else from Star Trek before we move on to a different franchise?
No.
Yeah, okay.
Carrie?
No, I think we've beaten Star Trek for a while.
Yeah.
I think we can go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of what ifs, right? It's never ending. You can what if anything to the nth degree, and it can be enjoyable at times. And of course, a series that lends itself to the what ifs is Babylon 5, which has been in the news recently, right?
Yeah, it's so ironic that we're recording this 2-parter, because between the time that we recorded 1 and 2, it was announced that JMS is reimagining Babylon 5 on the CW network.
Wow.
So we're literally going to get a what if come to life. What if JMS remade Babylon 5 all over again? And I am very excited about that, because that is, of course, my favorite show.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. But I understand a lot of people don't like CW network. And why is that?
I have no idea.
Is this another?
It might be because they're concerned about like low budgets, or everything has to be like a teen romance, things like that.
Okay.
That could be a part of it, yeah.
Yeah, so like when they said it was going to be on the CW, I immediately started imagining this version where Sheridan and Delenn are like going to the Babylon 5 college, and Delenn's boyfriend is this asshole hard-header Minbari who hates Sheridan, but she's secretly in love with him, and they have this like unspoken, unrequited love.
See, that's a good reimagining of a story, right? At least for a certain demographic, right? It's about expanding your audiences and growing your audiences. No.
I mean, okay. I do get it. The CW has kind of become Destination Central for all the teen dramas lately, but they also have all the DC Arrowverse stuff, and the Roswell remake has not at all been very teenage drama stuff. So, and it's actually been pretty good. So I am mostly optimistic about the remake.
Oh, that's good to hear about Roswell, because I actually watched the original and I didn't even bother watching the remake because I just assumed it was going to be like teen romance stuff.
Oh, and because they're not teenagers, for one thing on the show.
Well, let's see. Babylon 5, the original story, right? There's lots of twists and turns because of real life issues with actors and producers and things like that. Derek, what do you think would be a good way to go with the new Babylon 5?
I'm kind of going in with the assumption that we're going to get 13 episode seasons or something like that, because that's just kind of like the way things are generally done now. I'm hoping we'll get a full 22 episode season like most CW shows, but we'll see. I think the thing that's mostly going to change in this new version, I don't know. I mean, like I'm thinking that we're going to have a lot fewer standalones, and that we're going to be jumping right into the meat of the story. Like we're probably going to somehow get introduced to the shadows in the pilot episode rather than waiting until episode 13, things like that. I do think that it's going to star Sheridan from the get-go, because while JMS's original story starred Sinclair the whole way through, once real-life issues with the actor forced him to be replaced, Sheridan just became, he is Babylon 5 for everybody. So I'm sure that Sinclair will not even be a blip on the radar in this new show, or if not, he'll just be like a guest star or a backstory or something like that.
This is interesting because when the original series came out in the 90s, the Lord of the Rings movies weren't out yet. So there was so much over-the-top references to the Lord of the Rings, but you had to read the books to actually get the references. Now, I think it's fair to say that everyone is familiar with Lord of the Rings, if you're into this stuff at all, right? I wonder how much are they going to upplay or downplay it in the new Babylon 5 reimage series.
You mean they're not going to call the Shadow Homeworld Zaha Doom anymore?
Yeah, you think that's a bit of the nose.
Clearly Kaza Doom.
Yeah, and the whole shadows and elves and all that stuff, right? I think what the first couple of seasons of Babylon 5 did well was the sense of dread. The great evil is coming. And we've lived through a lot the last couple of years, so evil. Yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work again and as effective as it did back in the 90s, but we'll see. Yeah,
I'm now taking bets on whether or not Derek is totally wrong about who the main character is to be in the remake.
Yeah.
What, you think it'll be Sinclair?
I don't know who it's going to be. I think all things are possible until we see what JMS gives us.
Okay, I'd bet good money it's going to be Sheridan. Either Sheridan or like a third character, also with the initials J and S, because he likes doing that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something different, or they might do a gender swap. That's probably quite possible, right? So, yeah.
Could be.
Because they did a bunch of gender swaps in the Foundation TV show on Apple TV because, well, guess what? There weren't any women in the old novels, right? So that's kind of unfair. It doesn't go well in storytelling. So,
going back to Star Trek for kind of sort of real quick, I've seen a bunch of people on Twitter fan cast Jeffrey Combs in the Bester role, which would be awesome.
Oh wow, that'd be amazing.
He actually did play a telepath in season 1 episode was named Eyes in Babylon 5.
I remember that, yes.
Yeah. What else? Derek, what do you want to talk about Babylon 5?
Well, I could talk about Babylon 5 What Ifs all day because that's my favorite show. And one of the things that was so fascinating me was that JMS really did take the time to interact with the online audience and tell them about things and, things that were planned and things that, he doesn't really like to go into the what ifs, but he kind of drops hints here and there. So it's a fun game to try to reconstruct what would have happened based on oblique comments that he said. I tried to build a whole little document of what was the original story, because kind of like the original Star Wars trilogy, he had so many versions of what it was going to be as he was making it. Like the original version back, during the pilot and before, it was going to be Sinclair all the way through. it was going to involve the Minbari a lot more. There was going to be a second Minbari war against Earth. And the original ending of the 5-year show was not going to resolve the Earth War or the Shadow War. It was just going to end on a cliffhanger. The Babylon Squared episode where we see them in the future stealing Babylon 4, the station, and taking it through time, that was actually going to be the original series finale at the end of season 5. So it wasn't going to be anything like what it turned out to be. That was all had to be changed when Michael O'Hare left the show. The original ending was supposed to be that the Shadows basically won the war. They wiped out the Vorlons. Earth is still a dictatorship. So at the end of the series, like the villains are triumphant, and in the series finale, the Shadows attack Babylon 5 and destroy it, as we saw in the flash forwards. And they have to steal B4 to use as a roving station to be rebels with a cause in a second 5-year show that was going to be them on Babylon 4 driving around the galaxy trying to save the day. So it was actually going to be a 10-year series broken into 2 series.
Wow. That's
yeah,
great.
I could already see why, the studio execs would not have gone for that 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just that cynical about producers these days.
Oh, speaking of things studio execs wouldn't have gone for, Delenn was originally supposed to be a man, and when she goes to the Crystalist, she was going to become a woman. And, there were concerns that the executives wouldn't go along with our main character falling in love with a gender-swapped woman who who had kind of like a sex change surgery, basically, to become a woman.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I was going to comment on the whole Star Trek thing as just an off-the-cuff remark, which usually gets me into trouble. But imagine if James T. Kirk was gay instead of being this womanizer. What would that change things? Or would it change any of the storytelling? Right? Yeah, it would, historically, because the 60s was kind of fucked up as a time period, right? With great massive change. But it's interesting to reimagine characters, like iconic characters like James T. Kirk, and ask the what ifs, right? What if he was bald and wore a toupee? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure the CBS executives in the 60s would have loved that idea.
No. Again, the original Star
Trek. It would have given more credence. It would have given more credence to all the Kirk Spock shippers out there.
Yeah. And who knows? James T. Kirk may have been, have a gay side to him too. We don't know. Like, he did a lot of stuff in private, right? And who cares? Okay. But
yeah, exactly.
I just
he could have been an omnisexual for all we care.
Yeah.
For all we know.
But it's interesting how we can reimagine character development based off of gender, based off of sexual orientation, based off of having hair or not having hair, right? Okay, or alien or being human, right? The Shadows and the Vorlons. Yeah, you think they're going to reimagine the Vorlons with these type like masks on, or are they going to do some sort of different aesthetic to them?
I hope not. I love Kosh. He looks so cool.
Yeah.
And all Kesh looked even cooler. The second, more evil Vorlon. Like, I love those encounter suits. They better not change those.
Yeah. Do you think the Techno Mages will have a greater role in the reboot Babylon 5 or the reimagine?
Ooh, that's a good point. I think that they will, because when he made the Crusade series, he really fell in love with Techno Mages and Galen the character, and the fact that he used them so prominently in that one single DVD movie kind of shows to me that after the fact he really fell in love with the Techno Mages. So yeah, I would love it if the Techno Mages played more of a central role, because I'll recommend this all day long. The Janine Cavallo's Passing of the Technomage book trilogy, if you can find it, is amazing. It's some of the best stuff in the entire Babylon 5 franchise. It is so cool. It's the origin of the Technomages, and it shows what they did during the Shadow War, and it makes the Shadow War better because it actually shows it with a budget and shows what was going on in the worlds during the war and what the enemy planets were like. It is so good.
Excellent.
Cool.
Let's move franchises. Let's go to Alien. The whole Alien franchise. Something to put on your stomach and think about. I don't know. What do you think, Derek? Ripley, our friend Ripley.
Well, I actually just finished reading a novel. It basically is a what-if scenario. It's called Out of the Shadows by Tim Leben. It's from a few years back, and it basically asks, what if Ripley got intercepted in between movie 1 and movie 2? Her life ship got picked up somewhere else before it was found in Aliens, and she has this whole other adventure where, you guessed it, there's xenomorphs on a planet somewhere. And it was actually a pretty entertaining novel. I liked it more than I thought I would. Especially because the whole time I'm wondering, well, obviously she doesn't remember having this entire side quest adventure on another planet with aliens. So how are they going to explain this at the end of the story, that she still ends up in the lifeboat not remembering this? And there is an explanation for it that I won't go into, but I thought it was a pretty solid story. I mean, obviously, it's kind of hard to do alien stories and touch on something original without it just being a rehash of something. But I thought it was pretty good for what it was.
I always think about, and I'm looking at it now so I can get my information right, the cats from the first film, Alien. There's a short story out there about the cat basically hunting down the alien when it still was so small, and it was just like. So the cat is a predator, and what would happen if the cat actually would kill the alien in its infancy? Yeah, it's Here Kitty, Kitty, Here Jonesy. I think I'm trying to figure out the name of the short story. Very well.
Oh, I never heard of that before. That's a great idea.
No, it's been out. The short story's been out for like 40 years. It's Jonesy. Maybe the book Jonesy tells the story of Alien through the eyes of Ripley's cat. So I'm looking at some of these bizarre websites, and I'm trying to figure out who actually wrote this. Tell me. Oh, Rory Lucy presents the story. There you go. Oh, that's a full color illustrated book. So it's probably out. It's probably written by another guy or person. I'm sorry.
Is it an adorable children's novel?
Yeah, I don't think so. But it really plays with the perspective of characters and who has power, right? Okay, so imagine the xenomorph, right, in infancy. So it's basically defenseless, and you have a predator, a real life predator, like a cat, like a domestic cat. And if the domestic cat just would have just do what cats do, and mouse in this case, alien, I'm not sure, xenomorph, we would not have had the franchise probably. Oh, would we?
Well, they do have acid for blood, though, so
yeah, so the cat
one little bite.
Yeah. There's that. So you head down, Derek, stuff like what happened. What if Ripley survives Alien 3? Does she go back to Earth and tattles on the Weyland Utah company?
Yeah, if she had gotten away at the end of Alien 3... Well, she also had that alien queen in her. I forgot about that. Yeah. So let's say she managed to... basically, she survives. She gets the alien queen out of her, and she escapes Weyland-Yutani's goons at the end of the movie. What if she got back to Earth and went public with all this stuff they were doing? What would have happened? How powerful is this company? And if she had, turned them out to the light of day... would the government have done something to stop them, or what could have happened?
Yeah, probably nothing. She probably comes off as a crazy person. I don't know.
And then the other question is, if she reveals the public location of where the xenomorphs come from, what happens then? Because you're going to have every corporation in the galaxy trying to swoop down on that planet and get their own biomaterial. And you're going to have a bunch of redneck idiots going down there because they don't believe xenomorphs exist, and they're going to prove it.
That's video I want to see, right? Oh, God. Frightening. And you head down. What if we get a proper sequel to Prometheus? What do you mean by that, sir? Please tell us.
Well, I guess I'm in the minority on this, but I actually thought Prometheus was really interesting. It definitely had some dopey stuff in it, but I was saying before how it's hard to do an Alien sequel and do something interesting. I think Prometheus succeeded in spades in that because it did something new with the franchise. It explained to us who were those weird aliens in that weird spaceship. Where did they come from? Why did they have the alien eggs in their cargo hold? I mean, that was a vital question of the first movie, and we finally got an answer for it. And I thought it was fascinating that there was this mysterious ancient race of aliens that created life in the galaxy. And, why did they make the eggs? Was it a bioweapon? Did they worship it? I mean, that's really interesting, deep questions. And it kind of had larger issues of, who is God, who created life, what do we owe to our creators? And unfortunately, Prometheus ended with the setup of an amazing sequel of Shaw and David going to the engineer homeworld to get answers that they just completely ignored in the sequel to just do another Alien movie.
Yeah. So
I would have loved to have gotten that actual sequel to have met the engineers and gotten answers and find out what was going on with them.
Yeah, I want answers because these are great questions, and I like the big picture stuff. I like the existential questions. That's what I'm on about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have not seen any of the Alien movies outside of bits of 4, so I really can't comment.
But you've seen Spaceballs, right? Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
That'll get you
and I think I've mentioned this before on the show. It's like the diner scene at the end of Spaceball freaks me out enough that I have no desire to Alien the Alien movies because that was enough to freak me out.
Oh god.
Like I was almost terrified of eating out for a couple of weeks after seeing.
Too funny. But moving on, Tron 3. Okay, Derek, go.
I was a huge fan of Tron Legacy and the original Tron, of course, but I thought Tron Legacy was really cool, and I was so excited that it was setting up a sequel now that Quora was in the real world, and I couldn't wait to see what happened next. And then it's not so much that it underperformed, it was more that Disney bought Marvel right after that and Star Wars, and then is basically like, why should we do a Tron movie? We could just pump out Marvel and Star Wars movies now. So
right.
It kind of became a third-tier property for them, and it just kind of fell by the wayside, unfortunately. But I would have loved to see a sequel because I want to know, what is Cora like living in the real world? What does she think about the real world? And also, they were kind of setting up. Cillian Murphy had a cameo in the movie as, what's the bad guy's name? Salinger? Dillinger.
Right.
Well,
Dillinger's son.
John Dillinger was his dad, so yeah.
Yeah. So they were setting up him to obviously be a villain in the sequel or something. So yeah, I would love to eventually get a Tron 3. And they always talk about, we're going to green light it, but it hasn't quite moved forward yet.
Cool. And then there's Batman versus Superman. You had stuff down on that one.
Yeah, this is one that was covered by How Did This Get Made? But at the end of the battle, so okay, you've got Superman and you've got Wonder Woman fighting Doomsday. You've got a kryptonite spear that's going to kill Superman if he uses it. So do you give the spear to Wonder Woman or to Superman? Multiple choice. And the movie went with Superman and killed him. So if Wonder Woman had been the one to use the spear, he wouldn't have died, which would mean that the bell wouldn't have been rung and the Darkseid invasion wouldn't have happened. So basically the entire events of Justice League wouldn't have happened.
Except then Wonder Woman probably would have been the one killed, and it doesn't work for anyone, I think.
I don't know if she would have been killed, though, because she appeared to be about as tough as Superman, and the reason Superman was so easily killed was because he was holding a kryptonite spear that was weakening him. So, she wouldn't have had that weakness. She would have been at full strength.
To quote one of my favorite cheesy vampire movies, my favorite cheesy vampire movies, a stake heart will kill anything.
Yeah.
She's a better fighter than him, though. She has centuries of training. She would have dodged that spear.
Okay, Derek, it's very hard to survive stake through the heart at that rate, especially at that range. We don't know how durable Diana was as opposed to, Superman got blown up. Kal-El got blown up twice in the movie before, or at least once in the movie before he got staked. And and killed Doom. And all he needed was, a few minutes in the sunlight to be fine. We don't know that would have worked with Diana.
Yeah, I think Carrie makes a great point, a very impactful point about the steak.
Yes.
And hearts.
Thank you.
Hearts and steaks.
She cut to the heart of the matter.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. It wasn't forced very much.
I did
but,
that,
yeah,
I guess.
There you go. Yes. But what about The Dark Knight Returns? Was 2 movies. That's another Derek's question, right?
Yeah, because it was a very half-hearted adaptation of 2 of my favorite comic book storylines, Nightfall and No Man's Land. Now, in the comic books, No Man's Land was an entire year of stories. It was like 100 comic books because it was 12 months and 5 to 10 magazines doing it all at the same time.
But No Man's Land originally was due to an earthquake, not due to not that was not Bane's plan. That was just an earthquake that happened in Gotham.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be because Gotham is supposed to be an analog of kind of a cross between Manhattan and Chicago, I guess. But because they had just discovered fault lines under New York at the time, so this was like a 7-8 point earthquake that happened in New York as opposed to in California, where we have those in our buildings back in the 90s were at least built to withstand a moderately decent earthquake, whereas New York isn't.
Interesting.
Right. So, but within the reality of the movie, I mean, the cause of the No Man's Land is kind of irrelevant. It's just about the fact that the government abandoned the city and it's just chaos in the streets, and that is such a fascinating premise that you really could have taken so much more time with it. I mean, they flashed through it so quickly. It's a 3-hour movie, but they could have spent so much more time with it, because in the comic books, it basically falls down to different gangs controlling different blocks, and the police are one gang, and the Joker is one gang, and Two-Face is one gang. It's just like such a cool idea of having these gang war city blocks between supervillains, and they could have done something like that in the movie. And of course, if poor Heath Ledger had been alive, you could have had the Joker in there running pure chaos. I mean, there was definitely enough material for 2 movies in there.
It's okay. I think they're going to make another Batman movie.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that they probably could have split the movie into 2 movies. But I actually had no problems with that movie, and we actually just did that. We actually just covered that movie on Cape Chronicles a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago. I don't know how time works anymore. And it's still pretty good as it is. It might have been better as 2 movies, but it was fine the way they put it together.
Right. Okay, well, let's move on to, say, the Matrix series, because apparently Matrix 4 is coming out sometime soon. Who knew? Who knew? So, what if Neo survived? And not like 20 years later.
The original trilogy.
Yeah, the original trilogy. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Was there be a different balance of power with the machine?
I don't know.
I think it would have made a very different ending situation, because at the end of the original trilogy, Neo made the peace with the machines by sacrificing himself to stop Smith. But if he had stopped Smith but was still alive and was such a forceful power within the Matrix, that would have completely altered the balance of power. The machines might have felt more threatened by him, and they might not be as willing to make a peace agreement as they did before.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure what would happen, but I just can't wait till the 4th one to show up, just see how the differences would be, because the trailer got released 2 weeks ago, and it looks awesome, in my humble opinion.
Agreed.
There's also
besides I don't know that how. Well, I was gonna say they weren't clear about whether Neo dying was part of the cycle or not in the original trilogy. I'd have to go back and watch it again to see if that was part of the cycle was.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too. So, but there's also The Expanse. I would say friend of the show, but our show is a friend of theirs, I'm sure, because this is such a great series, right? Okay, and of course, Derek poses the question: what would happen? What if all our heroes in the series died in the first 10 minutes? Right? On the Canterbury.
We'd be totally screwed.
Yeah, totally screwed. There's no story.
We'd be screwed.
Or would there be other
no
stories?
No story. The proto-molecule takes over. We're done.
Yeah, but with the proto-molecule, right? Would it actually take over, or would it be used by various malicious interests for biological warfare?
Now, my memory is a little hazy here, but if I know the heroes prevented the proto-molecule from, well, no, it was taking over the station, and then they got it to fly into the planet and crash, where it then created the portal. So basically, if the heroes had done nothing, what would have happened is basically my question. What was if it had been unimpeded? Wasn't it just going to create that gateway no matter what? Would it have?
Yeah, I think it had to be turned on first and had to get critical mass, right? And I think it was sort of reaction to some sort of violence, right? It was someone fired a bunch of missiles at it, or was it Power Stream or something like that? I'm trying to remember. But that's like season 2, season 3.
Oh, I remember now. It was going to fly into Earth because it had Clarissa Mal's memories in it, and she wanted to go home to Earth, so it was flying to Earth. So, yeah. I guess if our heroes had not been there, it would have flown into Earth, conquered everyone in Earth, and used them to make the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have needed Marco Medaros to drop rocks on Earth, because our Earth would already have been, completely useless for human life.
Right. Interesting.
Now, they've said in the series that they're still dependent upon Earth to survive in terms of, foodstuffs and agriculture products and that sort of thing. However, if the portal opened immediately, couldn't have you just flown through and gone to a habitable world like Laconia so that humanity could have survived that way?
Maybe.
That depends on whether or not the people who, the race that was the enemy of the people who created the proto-molecule woke up, and that they really didn't care about these weird creatures made of the water, I guess.
Right. All right. Listen, I have a couple of them towards the end of the show notes, which I did last week. I'm not sure if this is going to stimulate serious discussion or not, but there's some very important questions I wanted to pose to you guys. First thing, what if in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy there were no Taos? Like Taos didn't exist. What do you guys think?
If I recall correctly, Ford and Arthur would have died on the Vogon spaceship. Didn't they need the Taos to survive?
Yeah, maybe. Just saying. Yeah, that's something.
No,
to think
the Taos are the most useless. I mean, you wouldn't have anything to flag down a passing ship. You wouldn't have anything to dry off with.
Right.
You'd have to maybe go to the planet of mattresses to get dry or whatever. I don't know.
All right.
Did you say a planet of mattresses?
Yes, there's a planet of mattresses. That's where people go to harvest the mattresses, dry them, kill them, dry them out, and use them to sleep. Marvin got stuck there at one point.
There we go. How about this one?
Yeah,
in the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, or reimage. Was it reimage or reimagine? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Reboot?
Reboot. No, it's really a reboot, but whatever. So what happened if they didn't use the song All Along the Watchtower, the Silence, but they used the song Stairway to Heaven by, Led Zeppelin?
It would have sent them to a different coordinates, to a different planet system where nothing was there, and they would have died.
Yeah, maybe. So you have Zeppelin versus Jimi Hendrix. Or was it more like Bob Dylan? I think it was Jimi Hendrix version. So yeah, there you go.
It was the Jimi Hendrix version that they used, but it was originally written by Bob Dylan, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And the whole thing pretty much seems that What If All Along the Watchtower had been created by the universe, and now you're positing What If Stairway to Heaven had been the song created by the universe.
Yeah, there's that. How about this one? Going back to Tron, Disney film. Right? What would happen if, say, video games weren't very popular and people played board games instead? How would that change that movie?
It would be Jumanji then.
There wouldn't be a movie. Yeah, it would be Jumanji.
All right. Planet of the Apes. What if dolphins involve to be sentient rather than the apes? It's a bit fishy, I know.
Would we know that there was intelligent life under the waves, and would most humans care?
Yeah. Wouldn't mankind basically have nothing at all to do with it because they're on the land and the dolphins are in the water? Or do the dolphins put on little water helmets and invade the mainland?
I love that.
That was actually an episode of The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't seal it, okay? Okay. Bills and Ted's...
We might have had it. We might have had a different scenario for so long it takes for all the fish.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, how about the Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure trilogy, or whatever it is nowadays? So what if Bill and Ted were actually good at history? And what if
they wouldn't have needed the time travel machine, and
they would never have met Rufus.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have saved the universe in the third movie.
Yeah.
So the universe would have been destroyed.
All right, good. And lastly, before we kind of shut this topic and move on with our lives, going to my favorite franchise, or at least one of them, is the Indiana Jones franchise, and specifically Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? Opening scene is a big giant boulder that almost crushes our hero Indiana to death, but before that, he meets this Belloc, the French archaeologist, who is a bit of a scumbag. So let me ask you guys this. What if Indiana Jones could speak Helvetus at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark? Would that matter at all?
He could have told the locals, hey, this guy's no good. Don't listen to him.
Yeah, it's like, Helvetus! There you go.
And actually, to take that further, so like, let's say he got the locals to turn on Belloc, and Belloc got killed or captured. So that means that Belloc is not there to help the Germans do the dig to find the Lost Ark, and the Germans don't find the Lost Ark, and they don't take it out and open it and kill all themselves. So basically, if you take Belloc out at the beginning, the movie doesn't happen.
Yeah, maybe.
Possible.
Yes, what if? Any other last what ifs before what if our doors close? Okay. All right.
No.
I think we've done the what if topic a lot. We can never stop. We may revisit it again sometime in the future. Probably specifically talking about a franchise as opposed to this general survey of different franchises. That was a great idea, Derek. Thanks for bringing it up, man. I appreciate that.
No problem.
This show is released as a podcast and on YouTube. Subscribe today. Check out our Discord. It's a great way to keep up to date with all the science fiction and geek culture news you need in your life. You can find our invites for our Discord channel anywhere you find our social media, which of course is Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I do the Twitter and Instagram accounts, and Derek does the Facebook. Hey, Derek, man, doing a great job on the Facebook page.
Thank you.
Our email address is at management@scifipubcast.space. Twitter. Carrie, what's your Twitter address?
Yes. My Twitter handle is Carrie Blackfire42. That's KERI Blackfire42.
And what other podcasts are you on?
I am on DC Talk, the Cape Chronicles, and Enter the Dojo over on the Random Chatter Network.
And Derek, what's your Twitter address?
I am at Derek J. Beebe, and also I have a website, derekbeebe.com, and I have made a resolution to actually update it every once in a while now. I've actually made a few updates within a few weeks, so I'm going to try to keep at that now.
That's fantastic.
Rather than doing one a year as I was doing before.
That's fantastic. I'll add that to the show notes. Yay, drink. My Twitter address is at Joel_Welch. WELCH. It's closing time. Please take care and make it home safely. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.
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 Music provided courtesy of Logan Rathbone. Podcast logo by Drew. Copyrighted Joe Welch. Listen responsibly. And we can't wait for your next visit to our fine establishment. Cheers.